Welcome back, everyone, for Chapter 3 of Rolling Thunder, Buffalo Horse and Spotted Fawn. The last part of the trip to Carlin, Nevada was a bus ride from Salt Lake City. I didn't know where to find Rolling Thunder or what I would say to him if I did find him. Originally, I had wanted it that way. I did not want to plan or prearrange the meeting. Rolling Thunder had given his mailing address to Elmer and Alice Green as a post office in Carlin, Nevada. How near Carlin did he actually live? After the conference in Council Grove, I proposed to the Menninger Foundation that I undertake a field trip to learn from Rolling Thunder. Dr. Green, head of the psychology laboratory and principal director of the Voluntary Controls Research Program, received my proposal with interest. I was given a 3-week provisional field assignment to meet Rolling Thunder and look for something that might lead to some common denominator with what we learned from Swami Rama, some key points regarding self-regulation and control of internal states, the mind-body secrets we were seeking. I started out on July 9th, 1971, riding with the Greens through Kansas and the Oklahoma Panhandle. From Flagstaff, I took a plane to Salt Lake City, and on the afternoon of July 12th, caught the first westbound bus. By the time the bus was speeding across Nevada, I was beginning to feel some apprehension. This meeting with Rolling Thunder was important to me. I wanted to carry back reports that would be useful to our project, but I also wanted to do it in a way that would be of service to Rolling Thunder's purpose. It seemed important to decide how to approach him and what to say. It reassured to me to consider I was following a natural course of circumstances. The time seemed right. The bus pulled onto the shoulder and stopped, interrupting my thoughts. The door opened and I saw the driver's eyes in the mirror. "Carlin," he shouted. I couldn't believe it. There was nothing here. I saw only a standard gas station near where we pulled off the road and 2 other stations, a Texaco and a Shell, just across the highway. "This is Carlin," repeated the driver. I made my way through the narrow aisle with 2 suitcases and got off. The evening air was calm and fresh. I stood on the shoulder and looked down the highway after the bus on the shoulder, and even after the sound was gone. I was in the middle of nowhere. Rolling Thunder might be somewhere in those distant hills that were now disappearing in the sudden night of summer, while I was standing on an empty highway with 2 suitcases. I walked to the standard station to buy a cold drink from the machine. "Is this Carlin?" I asked the attendant. It was Carlin. I just wanted to be sure. From where I stood now, I could see that there was a motel just behind the Texaco station, across the highway. If I had known I could see its sign from the bus stop, it said State Inn, and a sign on the other side of the station said Cafe. I walked across the highway and rang the bell on the office door. I waited. Nothing happened. I saw I had done the right thing because there was a note thumbtacked on the door that said, "Ring the bell." I had my finger on the button already, and a voice appeared. "I heard it, and I'm coming already." An elderly lady appeared, wearing a white starched dress that looked like a uniform. She was coming toward me, but very slowly, shuffling along in an old pair of slippers. "Do you have a room?" I asked when she was reasonably close. She looked at me like she thought I was stupid. She shuffled up to the office door and fumbled slowly through a bunch of keys on a chain. "Single is $6.30 a day." Inside my room, I began to think about planning. There was no real urgency now. In the morning, I could find out where Rolling Thunder lived and how to get there. Perhaps the old lady might know. I would likely find her in the restaurant next door when I went in for supper, and if so, I would ask her. That restaurant was closed, and when I looked in the window, it looked like it had been closed for years. The old lady came out and pointed up the highway toward the Shell station. "Go eat over there." There was a little place with a couple of tables, about 6 stools at a counter, and a number of slot machines. After a hot meal and several cups of coffee, I returned to my room. I contemplated rehearsing my first encounter with Rolling Thunder. I tried talking to myself as if I were speaking to him, but it felt ridiculous. Since I had no books or magazines, I decided just to shower and sleep. It occurred to me then how alone I was, and what an opportunity this could be. Here there were no telephones, no schedules, no waiting, no special times to be anywhere. No one in the world could possibly know where I was. No one could ring room 3 at the State Inn. During months of training sessions with Swami Rama, I had longed for a situation like this. The Swami always recommended a quiet corner somewhere in the house for daily meditation. With practice, one is supposed to become detached from all of life's distractions. But there are always the telephone, the doorbells, and the appointments to remember. I thought about all my sessions with Swami Rama and all of the sessions I spent alone in my own quiet corner in Topeka. I recalled the many hours I spent in the psychophysiology laboratory, electrodes attached to my scalp, working to consciously sustain those states of deep relaxation and revere that are associated with the theta wave patterns on an electroencephalogram. And I decided to take advantage of my ideal situation in this motel room. I decided to spend 2 days and 2 nights working on myself, hoping that this would be a meaningful preparation for my meeting with Rolling Thunder. I never repeated that situation, but I never lost the memory of it. I used those 48 hours of solitude for total relaxation practice, breathing exercises, concentration, and meditation. I left my room only a few times either to eat or to stroll for a few minutes in the fresh air. I slept for only a few hours. Most of the time I spent in what I thought of as a silent alert. I wanted to establish a clear sense of direction, to align myself with my own identity, and with the will and energy of my present task within a larger picture, and to become aware of those with whom I was associated and of those who were a part of my life and work. I did not experience a great deal of success in becoming directly aware of all that I had hoped to, but I did achieve a change in thoughts and feelings. I became totally free. All apprehension and anxiety were gone. I lost my sense of importance. I no longer really cared what happened between Rolling Thunder and me. I had nothing to care about, nothing to succeed in, nothing to do. Now that I have associated with Rolling Thunder for over 2 years, I am convinced that those 48 hours of preparation allowed me to tune myself to a relevant key. I believe it was because of that preparation that I had been able to learn from Rolling Thunder, from then on until now, without feeling or obligation to know or to interject my own needs or questions. Had I tried to actively pursue Rolling Thunder, I would have failed. As it was, I neither succeeded nor failed at anything. I discovered that Carlin was a real town. From my window, I could finally see the streets and houses that were not visible from the highway. On one of my walks during those 2 days, I passed the Carlin post office and decided to go in and ask about Rolling Thunder. I had learned from the Greens that Rolling Thunder was known by the Anglo-Saxon name John Pope, and that he worked as a brakeman for the Southern Pacific Railroad. Yeah, he lives in town here, said the lady in the post office. Do you know where he is? Well, it ain't hard to find. She pointed through the wall. Just head down that way across the tracks and ask anybody. I went back to the room to get the tobacco that I had brought to give Rolling Thunder. Before I started out to find his house, I rang the bell on the motel office door and waited for the lady to shuffle over in her old slippers. I wanted to pay her now for the third night, since I might be running late tonight. Now, this is my name where I've signed, she said, handing me a receipt. I'm a widow lady. My husband died years back and left me all alone with this whole place. She made a sweep of her arm that took in at least the motel, the bar, the old Texaco station, and the closed cafe. Do you know the Popes? I asked. Sure I do, Helen and John. She looked over at me at the top of her glasses. Do you know him? Well, I know John Pope. I'm going to see him now. I thought maybe you could tell me how to get there. Well, all you do is walk over straight town away down there. You're walking, right? Right. Well, you get to that overpass first. That's for people crossing tracks. When you cross over that, you'll see them bars at that. You don't go that way, you go the other way. Then you turn down the street and you go down to where the pavement ends. It's a little old house with bushes and weeds all growing up around it, so you can't hardly see it from the road. I walked through the little town and across the tracks with my tobacco offering in my shoulder bag. I knew the place when I saw it because there were all sorts of growing things all around the house. I recalled Rolling Thunder at Council Grove talking about plant life and herbs, saying there were no weeds in this world. It was a grayish wooden house with slanted roof, and it had a door right in the center and a window on each side. It looked like a cottage in a children's story. The weeds and plants grew in a sort of yard bordered at the front with a few bushes and shrubs, and a path that led straight through the middle to the door. Some boards and wooden slats made the front doorstep, and on this doorstep lay a huge St. Bernard with its dripping tongue hanging out. I noticed a young man at the side of the house. He had long hair and looked to be native. He had his back turned so he didn't see me. Because of the St. Bernard at the doorstep, I stopped well outside the bushes that bordered the yard and waited. I had retained much of my silent state, and I could have stood there for a very long time just looking at the house. But the young native turned around. "Is this where Rolling Thunder lives?" I asked. "This is where he lives, but he's not here right now. He's out on a trip. Do you want to talk to him or something?" "I wanted to meet him if I could. Do you know when he'll be back?" "Just a minute, I'll get my mom. You can talk to her." When he went, he left the door open, but I could not see inside from where I stood. I had apparently just met Rolling Thunder's son. I learned later that his name was Buffalo Horse, and that he had a younger brother, Spotted Eagle. Though I did not know his name yet, I felt as though I knew the man. I had just collected some impressions of him in my long silence that had just ended. When we spoke, the impressions came to the surface of my attention and made him seem familiar. Rolling Thunder's wife was a large woman with a very beautiful face. She wore long black braids and a necklace. When she came out of the door, she had to step around the St. Bernard. She walked down the path and studied me for a moment. Then she sat down on an old sofa that was beside the house. A pure white cat climbed on her lap, looking at me, and then jumped in through the open window. I tried to tell her who I was and why I was here. She watched me and listened. I kept glancing at the dog on the front step and the window where the cat had disappeared. I noticed there was another dog, a German Shepherd, a few yards behind me, and that he was on a chain. It seemed that it was taking me too long to speak. Perhaps I should be quiet. I would rather have been listening. Helen Pope seemed enchanting. I had the feeling that she was terribly important, and that she had come a long way, from some faraway place that could be reached through the front door, to sit on that sofa and listen to me. I had imagined her coming through a series of doors, making her way into the house, and then out the front where I was sitting. I believed that she was enchanted, and that she could go anywhere she wished, but that she was here because she had a family, lots of animals, and she cared about meeting people. "He works on the railroad, and he's out on a trip right now," she said. "But if you met Rolling Thunder at Council Grove, I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you. He'll return home sometime tonight, but he'll probably want to rest in the morning. Maybe you could come back tomorrow this time afternoon. He should be able to talk then." Her son was sitting near her in the yard, balancing himself on a wooden produce box. "Where are you staying?" he asked me. "At the motel up on the highway." "The State Inn, right?" "Yes." "Because if I had your name and room number, I could drive up there and pick you up whenever my dad was ready. See, you can't tell about him, and I'd hate to have you walk all the way down here again for nothing." I repeated my name and said that I didn't mind walking back. I wanted to stay and talk to Rolling Thunder's family, but the conversation seemed to have come to a conclusion. I started back the way I had come, still carrying in my shoulder bag the tobacco I had brought. Rolling Thunder's wife and son had impressed me. They reminded me of people I had known in Korean countryside villages. They were poised and easy, informal and unpretentious. There was a natural warmth about them. They seemed as exotic to me as the Koreans. I had felt something poised and powerful in Buffalo Horse, like a coiled snake that was not threatening, a kind of terrible force completely at rest and definitely waiting. Perhaps my impressions should be modulated. Was I to have such ideas about every native I met? Suddenly, I felt like going back and talking to Buffalo Horse again. I thought it might be a mistake to appear there again before the arranged time, yet would it be unreasonable? Rolling Thunder's wife and son had been friendly, and they had fit perfectly with the mood and expectations that I had established in the past 2 days. I could explain that I had nothing to do, so I went back. My conversation with Buffalo Horse was much too brief. "I don't really have time right now because I've got to go to Elko, but I can introduce you to the dude who stays in the trailer, and you can rap with him. Since I had walked all the way back, there was nothing I could do but talk to that dude who stays in the trailer. I was glad that I did. Lynn Carlson was the son of the proprietors of a local market. His family were friends with Rolling Thunder, about the only local non-native friends they had. I told Lynn how I met Rolling Thunder and why I had come. Do you think he'll remember you from Council Grove? Lynn asked. I don't know. He'd remember the others before the conference, before he remembered me. I was there for only one day. I think he'd be right to talk to Buffalo Horse first, he said, or someone in the family. Rolling Thunder is, well, he's, you could pick up something from him from his family, and they're really easy to talk to. It was supper time when I left, and I head back through the town. When I got back to my room, I stopped in for supper. Later, there was a knock at the door. It was the lady in the slippers. I got a call for you over at the bar. It was Helen Pope, and you're supposed to call her back. You have to call her back from the bar. That's where the phone's at. I followed her shuffle, dragging my feet to match her pace. Go on ahead if you want. Have a drink while you're waiting on me, 'cause I've got the number wrote down in my notebook. That's all right. You got a nickel? It's a payphone, you know. Won't I need a dime? No, it takes nickels, she cackled, and you can't win none back from it. She gave me the number. Oh yes, hello, this is Spotted Fawn. You talked to me today and I told you to come tomorrow? Spotted Fawn, I thought to myself. Helen Pope is Spotted Fawn. Rolling Thunder just got back a while ago. There are some other visitors here and he'll probably stay up quite late. I told him about you and he said you might as well come down here tonight. That is the end of chapter 3. Niawa. Thank you very much.